You know, on top of that, the World of Outlaw sprint cars are here, and they're fast. As fast as it feels in the car for me.
Aaron Kaufman is finally opening up about the moment he called someone truly evil. And the story behind it is more intense than you might expect. Years of behind-the-scenes tension, impossible deadlines, and creative clashes all led to a breaking point that changed everything. The truth about what really happened and why Aaron made that choice is finally coming to light. Join us as we explore the full story and uncover the details you've never seen before. First season chaos. The first season of Fast and Loud debuted in 2012, and it was nothing short of chaos behind the cameras. Fans saw the show's flashy builds and Richard Rawlings' energetic personality. But what they didn't see was how much work went into making it all happen. For Aaron Kaufman, the show wasn't just about cameras or ratings. It was about building cars, and the demands were extreme from the very beginning. Aaron often worked 38 hours straight during the first season. He would show up early in the morning, sometimes around 5 a.m., and stay in the shop long past midnight. On some nights, he didn't even go home. Instead, he slept in his car at the shop and used a hose outside to rinse off. Tools were scattered around him. Cars were in every stage of repair or construction, and the cameras never stopped rolling. Even when he was exhausted, he forced himself to keep working. There were moments when he would sit in a car, head leaning against the seat, eyes closing from exhaustion, then pop them open for the cameras. It was clear that Aaron's focus and determination were unmatched, but the toll it took on him was significant. Meanwhile, Richard Rawlings was busy running the business side of Gas Monkey Garage. He was constantly on the phone, chasing deals, securing cars to flip, and lining up projects for the shop. Discovery had set a nearly impossible schedule. 12 custom builds had to be completed in just 24 weeks. On paper, the plan looked straightforward. 3 mechanics, 12 cars, 6 months. In reality, it was a race against time. Each car had to be finished, running, and ready to sell within 2 weeks. Most professional shops would take 6 months for a single build of that size. But at Gas Monkey, the pressure was immediate and relentless. Scott McMillan, Aaron's longtime friend and fellow mechanic, watched all of this unfold during the first season. He had known Aaron since high school, and he could see just how much work Aaron was putting in compared to everyone else. By week 12, Scott estimated that Aaron had logged over 1,300 hours in the shop, while Richard had worked maybe 200. Scott noticed the imbalance clearly. Aaron was handling the heavy lifting, the technical challenges, and the long hours, while Richard focused on deals, appearances, and networking. While Richard thrived on constant movement and chaos, Aaron was the one who actually made the builds happen. Scott could see the strain it caused and how much Aaron was sacrificing just to keep up with the demands of the show. By the end of that first season, it was obvious that Aaron was carrying the weight of the shop and the show. The builds were finished, the cameras captured the action, and the show became Discovery's highest-rated series. But the reality behind the scenes was harsh, exhausting, and unsustainable. Aaron's talent and effort were the foundation of that success, even if viewers had no idea how much he sacrificed to make it all possible. And this was just the beginning of the pressure he would face, with even bigger challenges coming next. Behind the cameras. Behind the cameras of Fast and Loud, the work was far more intense than what viewers ever saw on TV. Aaron Kaufman often struggled just to stay awake during filming. He had been working long hours in the shop, sometimes up to 38 hours straight, and the exhaustion was constant. On set, he would sit under cars, wipe grease from his hands, and fight to keep his eyes open. Every few seconds, his eyelids would droop, forcing him to shake his head or glance at the camera to show he was still present. It was clear to anyone watching that this was more than acting. It was pure exhaustion. While Aaron was pushing himself to the limit, Richard Rawlings maintained his energetic, larger-than-life persona. On one occasion, a director asked Richard how important Aaron was to the operation. Richard laughed and made a joke about keeping Aaron chained to the shop so nobody could steal him. The crew laughed along, but Aaron didn't. He was under a car at the time, covered in grease, listening to every word. That moment highlighted a key difference between the two men. Richard could joke about the work and its intensity, while Aaron lived it every single day. Despite the extreme pressure, all 12 builds for that first season were completed on time. No other shop on television had pulled off such a feat. Every car had to be fully functional and ready to sell within 2 weeks, even though projects like these usually took months. Aaron was the driving force behind this success. He stayed late, worked through exhaustion, and managed complex technical tasks with precision. The cameras captured the final products, but not the real effort it took to get there. The hidden cost of this success was significant. Aaron's creative energy was stretched to its limits. He had to balance fast-paced deadlines with the quality and attention to detail he cared about. The constant pressure left little room for rest, reflection, or new ideas. By the end of the season, the physical strain was obvious, but the mental and emotional toll was just as heavy. Aaron had invested everything into the work, often without acknowledgement, while the fast-moving pace continued to demand more. What happened behind the camera set the tone for everything that followed, and it was just the start of the challenges Aaron would face. Avoiding television. Despite being one of the main stars of Fast and Loud, Aaron Kaufman avoided watching the show for most of its run. In the first 5 years after the premiere, he only watched 3 episodes. One was the very first episode, and 2 more were from the Pikes Peak special. A friend had insisted he watch the Pikes Peak episodes at a party, and that was it. Aaron explained that he made this choice deliberately. Watching the show could have made going to work miserable because he had no control over how he was portrayed. The editing, the cuts, and the way his words were arranged could easily change the story of who he was or how he worked. To stay focused, he decided it was better not to watch at all. Instead, Aaron focused entirely on the builds. He cared about the cars, the work, and the technical challenges. Television was secondary to him. He wanted to create something real, something functional and impressive, rather than performing for an audience. His attention was on precision, quality, and completing the projects to the best of his ability. While the cameras captured him in action, Aaron's main priority was always the actual work in the shop, not how it looked on screen. Aaron's skill came from years of self-teaching. He grew up in Fort Worth and learned by working in garages, tearing things apart and putting them back together. By the time he was 16, he had already built a heavily modified Jeep Cherokee and had a reputation as someone who could fix cars other people gave up on. He never went to an automotive school or received formal training. Everything he knew came from curiosity, practice, and trial and error. This made him a highly capable builder, but it also meant he was more interested in learning and creating than in television fame. For Aaron, there was a big difference between being a builder and being a TV personality. A TV personality is concerned with appearances, ratings, and audience reaction. A builder focuses on the work itself, the technical skill, and the results. Aaron chose the latter, dedicating himself to craftsmanship over popularity. Even though he avoided the show, the decisions he made during this time would shape his future and lead him toward bigger challenges ahead. Meeting Richard. Aaron Kaufman first met Richard Rawlings in 2004 at a Dallas shop called Four Wheel Parts. Richard had walked in looking for help with one of his cars, and Aaron, then a young and self-taught mechanic, immediately got to work. Richard watched as Aaron moved around the engine with precision and confidence, taking control of the project without hesitation. The way Aaron handled the car and his calm, focused approach impressed Richard right away. It was clear to Richard that Aaron had a natural skill and talent that went beyond what most mechanics could do. Within about 20 minutes, Richard offered him a job on the spot. At the time, Gas Monkey Garage was barely more than a side project for Richard. He was primarily running a home healthcare equipment business, and the shop was small, inconsistent, and far from profitable. It didn't have the reputation or the resources it would later gain through television. Aaron started as a junior mechanic, learning the ropes of the shop while helping with daily builds and repairs. Despite its humble beginnings, the garage gave Aaron a place to develop his skills, take on real projects, and learn how a car shop operated from the ground up. Over the next few years, Aaron became the backbone of the operation, handling the day-to-day builds while Richard focused on deals, marketing, and expanding the business. Part of Aaron's early experience with Gas Monkey involved traveling long distances to car shows and events. He and Richard spent hours on the road together, often driving through the night. Richard usually drove until late morning, and then would crack open a beer and hand the wheel to Aaron for the rest of the journey. These trips highlighted how different the two men were. Richard thrived on conversation, deal-making, and enjoying the journey, while Aaron focused on the cars, the planning, and the work that needed to be done. Even during long hours on the road, Aaron remained calm and focused, while Richard was more energetic and spontaneous. This early period set the stage for their working relationship. Aaron's skills and dedication made him indispensable to Richard, while Richard's business instincts provided opportunities that Aaron would not have had otherwise. They complemented each other professionally, even if their personalities and priorities were very different. Their first encounters and early work together showed the potential of their partnership, but also foreshadowed the tensions that would later emerge under the pressures of television and high-stakes builds. Next, we'll see how their skills and personalities collided once the cameras started rolling. Control conflicts. By 2014, tensions between Aaron Kaufman and the network began to show in small but significant ways. One of the earliest examples involved something as simple as Aaron's beard. He had decided he wanted to shave it and mentioned it to the producers ahead of time, expecting a normal conversation. Instead, he was told no. There was no discussion or compromise, just a firm refusal. The producers wanted him to keep his beard for the show, and it felt to Aaron like they were trying to control even the smallest aspects of his personal appearance. He explained calmly that if they insisted on telling him what to do, he would walk to the nearest store, buy a razor, and shave it on camera. The producers quickly adjusted their approach and asked him politely, and he agreed to keep the beard. But the incident made Aaron realize something important. On the show, even personal choices could become branding, and he was starting to feel like a tool for the network rather than a person in control of his own work. This struggle over control extended beyond appearances to the builds themselves. The network and producers began setting strict limits on what could be done, favoring smaller, faster, and cheaper projects instead of the complex and ambitious cars Aaron loved to build. For instance, he pitched an EcoBoost-powered De Tomaso Pantera, a project that would have required at least 12 weeks of intensive work and heavy customization. The network rejected it almost immediately, saying it was too slow and too expensive for television. Projects like this were repeatedly shut down, and over time, Aaron stopped proposing big ideas altogether. The tension highlighted a deeper difference between Aaron and Richard Rawlings. Aaron craved precision, complexity, and craftsmanship. He wanted time to do things the right way, to push technical boundaries, and to create projects that felt meaningful. Richard, on the other hand, thrived in chaos. Tight deadlines, last-minute flips, and fast-moving deals energized him. While Aaron focused on getting every detail perfect, Richard focused on momentum and spectacle. These conflicts over control, creativity, and pace set the stage for growing frustration, showing that working together under the pressure of television was becoming increasingly difficult. Next, we'll explore how this constant pressure led Aaron to face serious burnout and rethink his future. Growing burnout. By 2016, it was clear that Aaron Kaufman's enthusiasm for Fast and Loud was starting to decline. The early excitement and energy he had brought to the builds were fading. What had once been a source of pride and creativity had turned into a constant grind. The long hours, tight deadlines, and pressure from the network were taking a visible toll. Aaron showed up to the shop every day and completed the work expected of him, but the spark that had once driven him was no longer there. Scott McMillan, Aaron's longtime friend and colleague, noticed the change immediately. He had been working alongside Aaron since the early days at Gas Monkey Garage and had witnessed firsthand the intense workload from the very beginning. By 2016, Scott could see how the constant stress was affecting Aaron. The shop had a tense atmosphere. Where Aaron once seemed energized and engaged, he now appeared weary, quiet, and focused on just getting through each day. Scott observed that while Richard Rawlings continued to thrive under pressure, bouncing from deal to deal and project to project, Aaron was carrying the weight of the builds, the technical challenges, and the creative frustration that came from network restrictions. One of the clearest signs of Aaron's burnout was his decision to stop pitching new ideas. Earlier in the show, he had been full of suggestions and ambitious projects, pushing for builds that were technically challenging and innovative. But as the seasons progressed, he encountered repeated rejection from producers who prioritized speed, cost, and television appeal over complexity and craftsmanship. By 2016, Aaron decided it was no longer worth the effort to propose big ideas. Instead, he focused only on the builds he was assigned, ensuring they were completed to the best of his ability. He maintained his high standard of work, but the creative drive that had once defined him was now suppressed. The combination of long hours, constant deadlines, and limited creative freedom created a heavy emotional and mental load. Aaron was physically present, but the work became exhausting in ways beyond the technical challenges. The pressure of television, the constant monitoring by cameras, and the knowledge that every action could be edited and judged publicly drained him further. What should have been satisfying work became stressful and repetitive. Even when the builds were finished successfully, Aaron did not experience the same pride or excitement he once had. This period marked a turning point. The burnout was not just physical, it was emotional and creative. Aaron had to confront the reality that continuing on the same path would only lead to more frustration and unhappiness. It was a moment that would eventually push him to consider a major change in his career and life. Next, we'll see how Aaron reached a breaking point and started planning his exit from the show. Breaking point. Late in 2016, Aaron Kaufman reached a point where he could no longer ignore the toll his work was taking on him. One night, after finishing yet another 16-hour day at Gas Monkey Garage, he sat alone in his truck in the parking lot. The shop was quiet, the lights were off, and there were no cameras around. For the first time in years, he had a moment of silence to reflect. He expected to feel something: pride, frustration, or even excitement. But instead, he felt emptiness. The realization hit him hard. Despite all the work, the builds, and the acclaim, he was no longer motivated or fulfilled. That emptiness led Aaron to start seriously considering leaving the show. He knew that fame, extra money, or network perks were not enough to keep him motivated. What he wanted more than anything was freedom, control over his time, his projects, and his future. He didn't want to follow someone else's schedule or work on builds dictated by television ratings. He wanted to make cars the way he believed they should be made, without compromise. As he processed these feelings, Aaron began quietly planning his next steps. Late at night, when sleep wouldn't come, he sketched ideas for a future shop and researched potential locations around Dallas. He looked into equipment suppliers, shop spaces, and business logistics. He focused on practical steps that would allow him to transition out of Gas Monkey without relying on television or other people's deadlines. Through this planning, Aaron identified a clear direction for his future work. He decided to focus on classic Ford F-100 trucks from the late 1950s through the late 1970s. These trucks appealed to him for their simplicity, reliability, and potential for creative builds. Aaron saw an opportunity to fill a gap in the market while also pursuing his personal passion. This focus became the foundation for the business he would build after leaving Gas Monkey, a way to take control of his career and reconnect with the type of work that had originally inspired him to become a builder. By the end of 2016, Aaron's path was clear. He was ready to leave behind the television show, the endless deadlines, and the stress, and move toward a future he could fully control. Next, we'll see how Aaron navigated the challenges of leaving the show and starting fresh on his own. Departure decision. In early 2017, Aaron Kaufman officially gave notice that he would be leaving Fast and Loud and Gas Monkey Garage. After years of long hours, creative restrictions, and growing burnout, he had made a clear decision. It was time to take control of his career and focus on the type of builds he truly wanted to create. This was not a sudden decision, but the result of months of reflection, planning, and preparation for life beyond the show. The reactions from Discovery and Richard Rawlings were immediate and varied. Discovery initially tried to keep Aaron on board, offering more money and incentives, but Aaron had made it clear that his priority was freedom, not financial gain or television fame. Richard, on the other hand, found out about Aaron's plans through producers rather than directly from Aaron. While he wasn't shocked, he had known that Aaron had been unhappy for years. He admitted later that the news still stung. For Richard, the timing and method of the announcement created tension, highlighting the distance that had grown between them over the years. Publicly, Richard posted a statement on the Gas Monkey website, saying that Aaron's departure had come out of left field and was not his decision. The shop would continue running smoothly without him. Aaron chose not to respond publicly at first. Privately, however, he explained that the decision was about more than leaving a TV show or a business. It was about his ability to create complex, meaningful builds without compromise. He wanted time, space, and creative freedom, and staying at Gas Monkey meant sacrificing all of those things. Television, he realized, demanded speed, simplicity, and projects designed for ratings rather than craftsmanship. The builds he wanted to pursue required months of work, careful planning, and full creative control, none of which were compatible with the show's fast-paced production schedule. Aaron's choice was ultimately about aligning his work with his values. He could continue to work under constant deadlines, constrained by network expectations, or he could step away and focus on projects that mattered to him. For Aaron, the decision was not about money, fame, or loyalty. It was about doing the work he loved on his own terms. With his notice given and plans set, Aaron was ready to move on and start building a future where he could fully control his time, his projects, and his vision. Next, we'll explore how Aaron turned that vision into reality with the launch of his own shop, Arclight Fabrication. Building Arclight. In late 2017, Aaron Kaufman opened Arclight Fabrication in Dallas, marking a major turning point in his career. For the first time in years, he was in full control of his work and schedule. The shop was small, with a hand-picked crew that shared his values and dedication to craftsmanship. Unlike Gas Monkey Garage, there were no cameras, no producers, and no network deadlines. Aaron could focus entirely on the builds he cared about, taking the time to do things right, without compromise. While the freedom was rewarding, running Arclight came with challenges Aaron hadn't faced before. At Gas Monkey, he had concentrated almost entirely on building and fabricating cars. Now, every decision fell on him, from payroll and employee management to vendor contracts, supply orders, and business logistics. Aaron quickly realized that running a shop required more than technical skill. It required organization, planning, and constant attention to detail in areas he had never prioritized before. Handling invoices, negotiating with suppliers, and ensuring the team had the right tools became daily responsibilities that added stress and complexity to his life. Balancing these operational demands with building cars was a constant challenge. Aaron still wanted to focus on the creative and technical side of fabrication, but he also had to make sure the business stayed afloat. Early months were particularly demanding, with long hours that tested his patience and endurance. His personal life also felt the strain, with relationships and family time affected by the pressures of managing a new company. Despite the struggles, Aaron understood that this was the trade-off for independence. He could finally make decisions on his own terms, build projects the way he wanted, and create a shop culture that reflected his vision. Arclight Fabrication became a space where craftsmanship came first, and creativity was never limited by deadlines. Next, we'll look at how Aaron turned this freedom into a clear mission for his shop and his projects. Shifting gears. After establishing Arclight Fabrication, Aaron Kaufman gained full control over his projects and the pace at which they were completed. Unlike his time on Fast and Loud, he was no longer constrained by television deadlines or network demands. He could take the time necessary to design and build cars properly, giving each project the attention to detail and craftsmanship it deserved. This independence allowed him to focus on the aspects of building that mattered most to him, from technical precision to creative problem-solving. One of Aaron's key goals was to create a complete ecosystem for classic Ford F-100 trucks. By developing parts, tools, and resources in one place, he made it possible for builders to complete a full project without compromise. This approach reflected Aaron's dedication to quality and efficiency, as well as his desire to make complex builds accessible to others who shared his passion. It also demonstrated his long-term vision for the industry, combining technical expertise with thoughtful planning. Aaron also returned to television on his own terms with the show Shifting Gears in 2018. Unlike Fast and Loud, this show allowed him to work on multi-episode builds with complex designs and full creative control. He selected the projects, directed the work, and set the timeline. Fans appreciated the slower pace and the depth of craftsmanship displayed in each build, even if the ratings never reached the heights of his previous show. As for Richard Rawlings, Aaron's relationship with him is now professional rather than personal. They do not spend time together outside of business. but they maintain a respectful understanding of their shared history. Aaron focuses on his own work, prioritizing craftsmanship, creativity, and personal satisfaction over fame or external validation. His philosophy is simple: control your work, pursue meaningful projects, and maintain standards you can be proud of. With this mindset, Aaron has built a career that reflects his values and allows him to continue growing as both a builder and a business owner. Aaron Kaufman's story is about skill, determination, and choosing freedom over fame. From grinding long hours at Gas Monkey Garage to building Arclight fabrication on his own terms, he's proven that following your passion and staying true to your craft matters most. He continues creating complex, meaningful builds while controlling his projects and pace. If you enjoyed this, like, comment, and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories, and don't miss the next video on your screen.